Hi, my name is Dave Fracchia. I'm Studio Vice President at Radical Entertainment, makers of Prototype 2.
When I returned from the war overseas, I had lost everything.
Probably the biggest improvement that we've really done for Prototype 2 in terms of Manhattan has been the art direction. I think we've actually got a very clear art direction in all three zones. And in Manhattan, we really wanted that idea of a viral war. So the color palettes that our art director, Chris Shahom, and his team have picked really kind of reflect the difference in those zones, the tone of those zones, right? From the depressing kind of yellow zone to the war zone in the red zone, to the more kind of potentially calm and serene militarized green zone. Certainly one of the weaknesses were that in the first prototype, there was a feeling that we created a bit of a uniformish, blandish kind of world, right? Where even the characters in the world behaved either in panic or normal. So, what's really important to make a great open world game is the world has to be alive. The world is not alive. If the world isn't varied, you can get bored in a game. Another big one, besides the visual aspects and besides the story, people wanting the story to be more compelling, is also the repetition within missions. In the first game, we really wanted to give the players a lot of freedom. So we literally took all our powers and we almost say it's like taking a big Lego box and dumping it on the ground and saying, build something, right? The only problem with something like that is you can sometimes get a lot of powerful pieces and buy them very quickly. And then it can make the rest of the missions feel repetitive because you're using the same power that you may like over and over again as opposed to switching things up. The freedom you have in a character like this in a game like Prototype 2 is you're not adhering to any sort of moral code, for example, right? There's a bit of gore in the game as well, which really is meant to be there for visual and visceral feedback, but we don't have a morality system. What we'd like to think is by having a real strong connection to Heller, perhaps you as a player may act like you would want to as Heller. If you pick up a civilian, maybe you'll put them down nicely because we give you that capacity. But if as a player you don't want to do that and you want to take things out on helpless civilians, that's part of the power fantasy. It's your choice. I watched a focus test when someone would just kept taking civilians to the top of skyscrapers and just throwing them and throwing them and throwing them, right? Because they just, they got a thrill doing it. It was their fantasy at that point to do something like it. But we will not impose morality. The tendrils are by far one of the best power additions in this game. And we loved a lot of the other powers because they had that great visceral action, the great feedback where you could eviscerate with a blade, or your hammer fist would send people just flying into the air. But there's something special about these tendrils, not only because they can draw and quarter and they have the great amazing black hole effect where you're pulling things in at tremendous force and just taking out things, and you can take out even helicopters this way. But what also is just like you've mentioned, the visual aspect of them, the fact that these tendrils will stay up between buildings, which just create kind of a visual, infected mess. And you can sometimes just stop and look at that and go, holy shit, right? That's insane, right? That's our game.